Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the shop once again. So today I have a 2005 Ford F-150 with a 9.75 rear axle in it. It has about 116,000 miles on it. It's really well taken care of. Even the inside's like brand new in here. It still smells new, like from the factory. It's crazy. But he has a rear differential noise. Now the story behind this is that he bought this vehicle used from the local dealership, and then his noise developed soon after, and he brought it back to try to get it warranted, somewhat, kind of like a used car warranty type deal. And the dealer every time went back said, I can't hear a noise, I can't hear a noise, I can't hear a noise. Well, now it's really bad, and he's done with them. So he brought it to me for a timing job to check the rear end out on here, and I drove it, and it's pretty obvious it's a bearing noise. Now, rear axle bearings on Fords anyway, the actual outer axle bearings, they usually don't fail. It's all in the differential carrier and in the ring and the pinion up front there. That's where all the stress is at. So we're gonna go for a drive, let you guys listen to it since it's very loud. It's the same thing as any other bearing noise. Starts around 20, 30 miles an hour and just goes from there, okay? Now the added difference here, the added element here is that it's a meshing ring and pinion back there. So a ring and pinion can sound pretty horrible too, but it's usually only under either a light acceleration on a cruise, like ooh, and then you let off the accelerator and just goes away, or you cruise and everything's quiet and then you let off, you're on the coast side of the gears and it starts making noise. You accelerate and it goes away. So you have that added element in there too. You need to realize when you're trying to diagnose a rear end noise like this. Right now the bearing noise is so loud, it's hard to tell if the ring and pinion is burned out. And yes, at 116,000 miles, it can be worn out. It seems to be really hit or miss with these axles as far as ring and pinions wearing out. They could not change a fluid for 300,000 miles and some of them make it with no noise. Then other ones like 116,000 miles, they could be worn out. It's the way they're set up, I believe, at the factory. It's mass-produced stuff. And it's really hit or miss. Not everything's perfect. It's a mass-produced product in the end. So some of them can be worn out at this mileage also. But right now we're just listening to a bearing noise. And once I get inside of there, I'll show you the pitting on the rollers and the inner race and the cup on there, and show you just how small little pitting on there can make such a noise coming through, because it kind of telegraphs through the drive line and sounds worse than it really is on there. Either way, once you have this kind of noise, you want to get it fixed, because little metal flakes are going all throughout there. Should we get the bearings even worse, and of course adding to ring and pinion wear on there, and they could even start wearing out seals faster. So let's go for a drive and check it out. All right, let's go for a drive out in the country together. So we're cruising along. You'll see us start around 20 or 30. Listen. As we get higher in speed, you hear it? And if you let off, it kind of goes away, but it's still there. That's how you know it's a bearing noise, not just a gear noise. As we're slowing down here and there's no real stress in the gears, it's making the noise. Even right now, while I'm just turning around here, you hear something like grinding back, like metal on metal. Let's listen again. Let off the accelerator, kind of goes away, but it's still there. Okay, so it's definitely a bearing noise and maybe even a gear noise. So we'll check ring gear backlash and all that stuff while we're in there, but we're definitely going in for bearings at this point. All right, here we go. We're gonna pull the cover on here. The one thing that I do is I'll put down, some clean paper towels and drain the fluid, kind of through it and filter a little bit, just to see if there's any kind of fine metal particles inside of that fluid. That would indicate, a bearing failure inside there. Even before you get too deep, you'll already know. So we'll just kind of pop this. Oh, there we go. Let it all kind of come out of there. filter through there, and then we'll start pulling some stuff apart inside. All right, the cover's off. We're gonna let the fluid kind of sift down through here and filter out, but already I can see, you know, fine metal particles in the fluid where it's thinner in portions inside of here, especially down the sump on there. You know, the gears on here look really good. You can see it's nice, even wear. Nothing's too shiny or burnt looking on there. They'll get like a darker color and a real shiny appearance when they're worn out on there and just overworked. So that looks good, I figured. Over here in the cover also, it gets slung, any kind of metal. You know, the fluid gets slung towards the cover, so any kind of metal that gets churned up in there is gonna get slung towards the cover. And you can see it, you see all the fine metal particles in there. That's just the bearings literally flaking off on there, on the rollers. So we're definitely going in for that. You know, generally gear wear will not do that unless it's extreme, like someone didn't set it up right. From the factory, they set it up, you know, pretty darn well. So over time, it'll wear out, but not so much where it leaves flakes like that. So, and again, look at the teeth on here. I mean, they're absolutely awesome. So we're just going in for some bearings on here. So once I get it more torn down, I'll come back and I'll show you how it looks on there. All right, so when it comes to differential bearing failures on Fords anyway, the most common source for a bearing failure and noise is gonna be from the pinion bearings. Both inner and outer, they fail at the same rate. You gotta remember the pinion bearings are being worked the most because they're handling all that torsional twist as you're trying to take off from a stop, you know, the trailer or whatever else. They're taking a lot of abuse and they don't sit in a bath of fluid like the differential carrier bearings do back here, okay? So the second most common source of a bearing noise and failure is gonna be from the carrier bearings themselves, all right? So what we're looking for on here, I have the carrier out on the bench over there. We're looking at the cups for the carrier bearings. You can see on here, they look good, nice even wear on there. We're looking for shiny spots, bluing, and of course pitting, and I see none of that on the cup side. So you still wanna check the actual cone and roller on there. So let's go check it out. So we're looking for the same stuff, the shiny spots, bluing, you know, hot spots, and of course pitting on here. Our wear looks nice and even, no pitting, everything looks good to go, all right? You wanna check top and bottom, of course. And the other thing you wanna do is, of course, spin the cage on there so you can see all sides of those little rollers on them, because usually it only happens on one side where they just start pitting and it coming apart on there. So you definitely want to spin it and do a good inspection. So once I get the pinion out of here, you know, pull a drive shaft and get the pinion out, we're going to look at it and we're going to show you exactly how it fails and how it looks. Okay, now with the pinion out, we can get a better view of exactly what's going on here. So this is the inner bearing on the pinion itself, and it's much bigger than the outer bearing, all right? And you can see, I mean, it's not really pitted. I ain't seen any pitting yet. But it doesn't look that great, all right? Let's take a look at the cup on the other side. The wear looks pretty even on there, but the outer bearing on here is definitely a different story. So if I can get some light in here and you can look at it, you could see the pitting that's going on here. See it right there? That's the pitting I'm talking about. So it may not look like much, but remember, it's not just this side. You have an outer race and you have an inner race, which is right here. So if you popped off this cage and the roller's out, you'll see crazy pitting, even deeper than that, going on the inner race. And that's where it's under pressure and it's rolling across. So this one's really sunken in, it's really worn out, and you can see just about all of them on here are definitely having a problem. So that's where all our noise is coming from, which makes sense. As we were accelerating and decelling, it definitely changed. Well, that's when these pinion bearings are loaded up and unloaded, is when you're accelerating and decelerating at different times. So that's where it's all coming from. And again, over here on the cup side, we're looking at, if you can see it, you see how we have some really rough wear right here. It's really rough. And there's different color wear right there. You see how it is in there? It's almost like the cup wasn't set right. And it was cocked in there a little bit. See, this side's pretty even and normal. And you get to right there, it changes color, and you can tell where it was wearing and wasn't wearing. Yeah, so that all makes sense. And that's what's going on here. So if I get into it and I cut off the cage on here, I'll come back and I'll show you guys exactly how it looks on the inner race, where it's gonna be much worse. But once I start pulling the, the pinion out and all that stuff, you can just smell it. It's a really strong smell because all the fluid around it just got burnt up because it was overheating. Just for the heck of it, I went ahead and pulled off the cage and roller bearings on there so we can get a better view of this. And you can see it's pretty pitted all the way along on here. Go ahead and get the rest of these off. There's certain points on here where it's worse than others. You can see the uneven wear. Look at that. It's pretty deep. And that's where all the pressure's at down here. Wow, look at this side. So yeah, that's where all the noise is coming from. Doesn't take much to make that kind of noise coming through the rear end on there. All right, here we go, Joe. I got the rear end put back together, timing job done. We're checking power balance and all that. Let's listen for a noise, see if it's all fixed. Get some speed going here. I hear a tire noise, that's about it. Let's listen. Nothing. Both accelerating and coasting. That's awesome. Just some tire noise. Got big knobby tires on here. That's it. Let's take another drive down here. Nice. That's the way to do it here. Find the root cause and fix it. Speed, nice smooth road. Here's some tire noise, that's it. That's it. Perfect repair in the end.